The first sensor alerts came during scheduled maintenance. Alara Vance was balancing on a narrow catwalk above one of BioCore's secondary filtration tanks, checking pressure readings on her tablet, when the proximity warning chirped on every device in the section simultaneously. Warning lights shifted to amber across the multi-level facility housing Harmonia's life support systems. "Control, this is Vance. What's happening?" She kept her voice steady as she descended the ladder, the railing cold beneath her gloved fingers. "Unknown object, Chief," replied the young technician on duty. His voice cracked with tension. "Big, really big. It just appeared on our long-range sensors. Trajectory suggests deliberate approach." Alara felt her throat tighten. The generational starship Harmonia had been traveling between stars for 73 years. Space was vast and mostly empty. Random encounters didn't happen. "Inform command. I'll be right there." By the time she reached BioCore's central monitoring hub, the situation had escalated. The main display showed a three-dimensional representation of Harmonia, a massive cylindrical structure with rotating habitat rings, and approaching it, something else entirely. Captain Neela Rivera's face appeared on the communication screen, tight with concern. "What do we know, Chief Vance?" "Not much yet, Captain." Alara studied the sensor data streaming in. "It's unlike anything in our records. Size estimate puts it at roughly 1/3 of Harmonia's mass. The structure appears organic in design, though clearly artificial. The object displayed on screen defied conventional engineering principles. It had no visible propulsion system, no recognizable symmetry. Instead, it resembled something grown rather than built. Flowing curves interwoven with crystalline structures that seemed to pulse with internal energy. "First contact protocol is in effect," Rivera announced. "We're broadcasting standard greeting packages on all frequencies." So far, no response. Alara nodded, but her attention had shifted to her own readings. Something was happening with the BioCore systems, subtle fluctuations in power distribution, microscopic changes in temperature regulation. "Captain, I think we're being scanned." "Hostile action?" "I can't say yet. It's very precise, targeted specifically at life support systems." Alara's fingers flew across her console. "The scanning pattern is unlike anything in our database. It's intelligent, adaptive, working around our firewalls like they aren't even there." Commander Jian Li, Harmonia's chief of security, joined the conversation, his expression grim. "We should activate defensive measures if they're targeting life support." "No," Alara interrupted. "Any aggressive action might be misinterpreted. This scan isn't damaging anything. It's just observing intensely." "I agree with the chief," Captain Rivera said. "Continue monitoring. All departments stand by." The next hour passed in tense silence as the unknown vessel drew closer, now clearly visible through Harmonia's external cameras. Its surface shimmered with what appeared to be a liquid metallic membrane, shot through with veins of blue-green light. It was beautiful in an unsettling way. Alara barely noticed. She was consumed with tracking the scan's progress through BioCore systems. Whatever technology the visitors possessed, it was unimaginably advanced. The scan had now penetrated every level of the ship's ecological infrastructure: water reclamation, atmospheric processing, waste management, and most concerning, the secondary filtration systems where beneficial bacteria processed organic waste. "They're particularly interested in the bacterial colonies," she murmured, more to herself than anyone else. Dr. Eris Thorne, the ship's xenobiologist, leaned over her shoulder. She hadn't noticed him arrive. His wild gray hair was more disheveled than usual, and his eyes gleamed with scientific excitement behind round spectacles. "Fascinating," he whispered. "Perhaps they're a symbiotic species themselves. The design of their vessel suggests biological integration far beyond our technology. Or maybe they're just thorough," Alara responded. She respected Thorne's brilliance, but found his enthusiasm sometimes blinded him to potential dangers. "They've been examining our bacterial populations for 20 minutes now. Those bacteria are the unsung heroes of Harmonia. Thorne said with genuine affection. Complex communities working in perfect balance, breaking down toxins, cycling nutrients. Biocore would collapse without them. They're as essential as any piece of machinery. I know, Doctor. I just wish I understood what our visitors are looking for. The answer came moments later, and it wasn't what anyone expected. Every screen, every communication device, every personal tablet on Harmonia simultaneously displayed the same message. A synthesized voice, eerily perfect in its linguistic precision, spoke in multiple languages simultaneously. Extinction-level threat detected in life support systems. Mandatory evacuation protocol activated. Time remaining, 72 Earth Standard Hours. Then, as one, every display shifted to a countdown clock. Chaos erupted almost instantly. Emergency channels overloaded with panic communications. Captain Rivera's voice cut through the noise, ordering calm, but the damage was done. The countdown, large, red, implacable, dominated every screen aboard the ship. In Biocore's control room, Elara stared at the alien vessel, now holding position just 3 kilometers from Harmonia's hull. What threat? There is no threat. Our systems are functioning normally. Her voice remained controlled, but her hands had clenched into fists. Commander Lee's face appeared on screen. Captain has called an emergency council meeting in 5 minutes. The alien vessel is not responding to communications. Elara gathered her tablet and turned to find Dr. Thorne still transfixed by the readings from the bacterial scan. "Doctor, we need to go." "Don't you see it?" he murmured, pointing to a specific data cluster. They were particularly interested in the CB7 strain in the secondary filtration. It's perfectly harmless, been part of our ecosystem since Earth. Why would they? We can theorize later. Right now, we need answers. The council chamber was in disarray when they arrived. Representatives from Harmonia's 5 major sections argued loudly over one another. Captain Rivera sat at the head of the table, her composure intact but strain evident in the tightness around her eyes. "Enough," she called, and the room fell silent. "Chief Vance, your assessment?" Elara stepped forward. "Biocore systems are functioning normally. There is no detectable threat to life support. The alien message appears to be a false alarm or a misunderstanding." "Then why are they telling us to evacuate?" demanded the Agriculture Section representative. "Evacuate to where?" "We are in interstellar space." "Perhaps they're offering assistance," suggested the Education representative. "Maybe they have transport capacity." Commander Lee shook his head. "We've attempted all forms of communication. They're not responding to anything. And we have limited escape pod capacity, enough for maybe 15% of our population, designed for short-term survival only." "I've ordered preparation of the escape vessels as a precaution," Captain Rivera said, "but I agree with Chief Vance. This appears to be a misunderstanding. Our priority must be establishing communication and clarifying the situation. And if we can't," Lee asked, his expression dark, "we should consider offensive options. A targeted strike on their scanning equipment." "With what?" Elara interrupted. "We've seen what their technology can do. They bypassed our most sophisticated security systems like they were child's play. Any aggressive action would be suicide." The captain nodded. "Commander, maintain defensive readiness, but no offensive preparations. Chief Vance, I want you to form a small team. Your goal is to understand what they perceive as a threat and find a way to communicate that it isn't. You have full authority to access any systems or personnel needed." "I need Dr. Thorne," Elara said immediately. "And—" she hesitated, then continued, "Commander Lee. His security expertise may be valuable." Lee looked surprised, but nodded his agreement. "You have 70 hours, Rivera said, glancing at the countdown still dominating one wall of the chamber. "After that, we'll have no choice but to begin evacuation procedures, futile as they may be." Within an hour, Elara had commandeered a research lab adjacent to Biocore's main facility. Screens displayed data from the alien scan, now completed, alongside the normal operations of Harmonia's life support systems. Dr. Thorne moved between workstations, his initial excitement tempered, but not extinguished, muttering analyses to himself as he worked. Commander Lee stood near the door, arms crossed, watching them both with a mixture of impatience and grudging respect. "Any progress?" "Some," Ilera replied without looking up. "We've isolated what they scanned most thoroughly. It all centers on the bacterial communities in our secondary filtration systems. Specifically, the CB7 strain Dr. Thorne mentioned." "And is there a problem with it?" "None whatsoever," Thorne answered. "CB7 is a modified strain of Chlorobium lamicula, a green sulfur bacterium originally from Earth's deep seas. We use it to process certain sulfur compounds in our waste management cycle. It's been stable for decades." "So they're wrong," Lee concluded. "The question is why they think there's a threat when there isn't." "That's what we need to figure out," Ilera said, studying a molecular diagram. "Maybe there's something about CB7 that resembles something dangerous in there. Experience. Or maybe they're lying," Lee suggested, "creating a false emergency for reasons we don't understand." Ilera was about to respond when a notification flashed on her screen. "We're receiving a data packet from the alien vessel." They gathered around her display as she opened the transmission. It contained no audio or video, only text in a surprisingly readable format, though the sentence structure was oddly mechanical. Query response initiated. "We are Biosphere Guardians. Our purpose, preservation of viable life systems across galactic sectors. Scan indicates presence of extinction vector microorganism with 99.97% pattern match to Thanatos-class biohazard from historical database. Evacuation recommendation, standard compassion protocol for pre-singularity species." Silence fell over the room as they absorbed the message. "Compassion protocol," Lee finally said. "They think they're being kind?" "Pre-singularity species," Thorne repeated. "They see us as primitives, technological children." Ilera focused on the core issue. "They believe our CB7 bacteria is almost identical to something that caused extinctions elsewhere." She turned to Thorne. "Is that possible?" The biologist frowned thoughtfully. "Bacterially speaking, superficial similarities can mask fundamental differences. Two organisms might have nearly identical protein structures, but behave completely differently due to small variations. Without more information on this Thanatos-class biohazard, it's impossible to say." "Then we need more information," Ilera decided. She composed a response. "Request additional data on Thanatos-class biohazard. Nature of threat, historical context, distinguishing characteristics. Our records show CB7 strain has been stable in our ecosystem for 73 years without incident." The reply came almost instantly. "Information provision authorized. Accessing historical database." What followed was a massive data dump. Thousands of pages of technical information, biological analyses, and historical records, all translated into human-readable format, but clearly not designed for human comprehension. It would take weeks to process it all manually. "We need to focus," Ilera said, scanning through the data. "Look for anything about how this Thanatos bacteria supposedly causes system collapse." Hours passed as they sifted through the information. The ship-wide tension mounted as the countdown dropped below 65 hours. Reports came in of fights breaking out in residential sections, of people demanding access to escape pods, of children too frightened to sleep. "I think I found something," Thorne announced suddenly. He'd been quiet for hours, absorbed in the alien data. According to these records, the Thanatos bacteria doesn't cause harm through its ordinary metabolic processes. It's quantum signature that's the problem. "Quantum signature?" Lee asked skeptically. "It's complicated," Thorne said, rubbing his eyes. "The Guardians appear to operate on principles that combine biology and quantum physics in ways we've barely theorized. But essentially, they claim this bacteria emits a specific quantum resonance pattern that, over time, destabilizes certain complex systems through a cascade effect. Like an avalanche triggered by a whisper," Ilera mused. "Precisely." Thorne's excitement resurfaced. "And here's the fascinating part. Our CB7 has an almost identical quantum signature according to their scans, but with one crucial difference. He pointed to a complex equation. This value here, in a Thanatos bacteria, it increases exponentially over time. In our CB7, it remains stable. But their detection systems apparently can't distinguish between the two without long-term observation. So they're evacuating us based on a false positive, Lee said. Can we explain this to them? Alara frowned. I'm not sure they believe us. Their message implies they've seen this pattern before, many times before. They trust their data more than our assurances. Then what do? Lee demanded. We can't evacuate. We have nowhere to go. Alara stared at the molecular structure of CB7 displayed before her, an idea slowly forming. What if we could temporarily alter CB7's quantum signature, just enough to make it register differently on their scans? Thorne blinked rapidly, processing the suggestion. Theoretically possible. We could introduce a catalyst to temporarily shift its quantum resonance pattern. But to affect all the CB7 colonies throughout BioCore, we need to introduce it through the main filtration system, which would mean temporarily disabling critical safety protocols, Alara finished. It's risky if the catalyst affects other bacterial strains or is improperly balanced. The very system failure they're warning about could actually happen, Lee concluded grimly. I need to run simulations, Thorne said, already turning to another workstation. If we use ethylene 7 as the base catalyst, modified with, Alara's tablet chimed with an incoming message from Captain Rivera. Status update required. Unrest increasing. Council considering early evacuation procedures. The situation was deteriorating faster than expected. Alara replied quickly, explaining their theory and proposed solution. The captain's response was immediate. Estimated chance of success? Risks? Alara looked at Thorne, who was deep in simulations. Doctor? Best assessment. He didn't look up. With proper calibration, maybe 70% chance of successfully altering the quantum signature without disrupting BioCore functionality. But it would take hours to synthesize the catalyst in sufficient quantities, and we need to shut down filtration section by section to implement it. And if it fails? Lee asked. Thorne's expression grew somber. Best case, nothing happens. Worst case, we create a genuine crisis in BioCore that could take weeks to stabilize. Alara relayed this information to the captain, adding, request permission to proceed with catalyst development while continuing to seek alternative solutions. The response took longer this time. Finally, permission granted. But be aware, the Council has voted to begin preliminary evacuation measures at the 48-hour mark if no solution is found. Priority personnel first, then vulnerable populations. Priority personnel, Lee repeated with a bitter laugh. They're talking about abandoning most of the ship, which is why we can't fail, Alara said firmly. Dr. Thorne, I need that catalyst formula. Commander, I need security clearance to override BioCore's safety protocols and a team of your most reliable officers to help implement this across all sections. Lee straightened, professionalism replacing his momentary cynicism. You'll have it. But Chief, people are scared. Rumors are spreading faster than we can contain them. Some believe these aliens are actually hostile, creating a false crisis to weaken us. Then we need to work fast, Alara said. Because whether the Guardians are right or wrong about the threat, their intentions seem genuine. And I don't want to find out what happens when their 72-hour compassion protocol expires. The next 18 hours passed in a blur of activity. Thorne, assisted by BioCore's best biochemists, developed and refined the catalyst formula. Simulations showed promising results, though nothing was certain. Alara coordinated with engineering teams to prepare for the sequential shutdown and treatment of filtration systems. Throughout Harmonia, tension mounted as the countdown passed the halfway mark. Captain Rivera maintained order through a combination of transparent communication and increased security presence. But reports of attempted break-ins at escape pod bays continued to filter in. The alien vessel remained in position, silent except for one additional message sent at the 36-hour mark. Evacuation progress assessment. Insufficient. Recommendation. accelerate procedures. Purpose of communication: compassionate concern for biological continuity. They really think they're helping us, Elara murmured, reading the message in her makeshift command center near BioCore's main control hub. Their algorithm says we're doomed, so we must be, Lee replied. He'd been working alongside her continuously, coordinating security and helping plan the implementation sequence. Dark circles under his eyes match her own. The arrogance is almost admirable. It's not arrogance if they genuinely believe it, Thorne countered, looking up from his final catalyst formulation. From their perspective, they're warning primitive beings about a danger we can't perceive. Like advanced humans might warn a pre-industrial society about radiation they can't see or understand. Except we're not pre-industrial, and there is no danger, Lee snapped. That we know of, Thorne said quietly. The universe is vast and strange, Commander. Humility serves us better than certainty. Philosophical debates later, Elara interrupted. Doctor, is the catalyst ready? Thorne nodded. As ready as it will ever be. We've produced enough to treat all filtration systems, with appropriate concentration adjustments for each section. Then we begin implementation in 1 hour, Elara decided. We'll start with Section 5's filtration system, its smallest and most isolated. If successful, we'll proceed through the remaining sections in order of criticality. The Council wants an update before we start, Lee informed her. They're voting on whether to accelerate the evacuation schedule. Elara suppressed a flare of frustration. Tell them we're proceeding with our solution and request they hold any evacuation decision until we see initial results. As Lee moved away to communicate with the Council, Thorne approached Elara, speaking softly. You should know something. I've been studying the Guardian data more deeply, and their historical records are extensive. They claim to have observed this same bacterial signature leading to catastrophic system collapse on thousands of worlds across species we've never imagined. And you think they might be right? Elara asked, searching his face. I think, he said carefully, that their database spans millions of years and species. Our experience with CB7 spans decades and one ship. The statistical weight is rather unbalanced. But you still support this plan? Absolutely, he said with sudden conviction. Because even if there's a 1 in a million chance they're right about the risk, there's 100% certainty that evacuation means death for most of our population. And more importantly, he tapped the molecular model on the nearest screen. I believe in our science. CB7 is not Thanatos. Similar doesn't mean same. I hope you're right, Elara said. For all our sakes. The implementation began at hour 35 of the countdown. Section 5's filtration system was taken offline, drained, treated with the catalyst, and restarted. Initial readings showed the catalyst dispersing properly and affecting the CB7 colonies as predicted. Quantum signature is shifting, Thorne announced, watching the measurements. If the Guardians scan again, they should see a distinctly different pattern. Any negative effects on the bacteria? Elara asked. Metabolic rate temporarily decreased, but within acceptable parameters. No signs of colony collapse or mutation. 6 hours later, after successfully treating 3 additional sections, a message came from Captain Rivera. Guardian vessel is emitting increased energy signatures. Possible scanning activity detected. They're checking their work, Lee commented, now overseeing the security team preparing for Section 1, the largest and most critical filtration system. Let them look, Elara said, though her heart rate quickened. By the time they finish scanning, all sections will be treated. The treatment of Section 1 began at hour 24. As the largest and most complex of BioCore's filtration systems, it contained nearly 40% of Harmonia's total bacterial population, including the highest concentration of CB7. The procedure started smoothly. Safety protocols were overridden, and the massive filtration tanks began the controlled drainage process that would allow the catalyst to be introduced. Elara stood on the same catwalk where she'd been when the crisis began, watching the water levels drop in the primary tank. Suddenly, alarms blared across the facility. What's happening? She demanded into her communicator. The technician's voice was tight with panic. Power fluctuation in the drainage system. Pressure is building in the secondary tanks. The Guardian vessel is emitting some kind of energy pulse directed at BioCore, came Lee's voice from the control room. It's interfering with our systems. Shut everything down, Alara ordered. Emergency protocols. We can't, the technician replied. The override you implemented is preventing emergency shutdown. Alara's mind raced. The safety protocols they'd bypassed to implement their plan were now preventing them from responding to a genuine emergency. If pressure continued to build in the secondary tanks, manual override, she decided. I need to reach the control junction on level 3. She ran, taking the maintenance ladders 2 rungs at a time, the sound of straining metal and rushing water growing louder behind her. The energy pulse from the Guardian vessel must have triggered a resonance effect in their systems, precisely the kind of cascade failure the aliens had warned about, but caused by their own intervention. Reaching the control junction, Alara found the manual override panel already damaged by power surges. Sparks flew from exposed circuitry. Thorn, I need options, she shouted into her communicator. The catalyst, his voice came back immediately. If we can introduce it now, even at current water levels, the quantum signature change might disrupt whatever resonance the Guardian's pulse is creating. The injection system is offline with everything else, Alara responded, trying to reconnect the override circuits with her toolkit. There's an emergency reservoir above the primary tank, Thorne said, designed for chemical treatments during critical failures. If you can reach it and manually add the catalyst. Alara looked up. 20 meters above, attached to the ceiling of the vast chamber, was the emergency reservoir, a failsafe she'd hoped never to use. Send someone with the remaining catalyst to the upper access corridor. I'll meet them there. The journey to the upper level was harrowing. The entire BioCore facility shuddered as systems struggled against the alien energy pulse. Twice, Alara had to find alternative routes as passageways became inaccessible due to emergency bulkheads engaging. She found a junior technician waiting at the upper access point, clutching a sealed container of catalyst. The young woman's face was pale with fear, but her hands were steady. Good work, Alara said, taking the container. Return to the safe zone. Tell Commander Lee I'm proceeding with manual distribution. The emergency reservoir control room was tiny, designed for maintenance rather than comfortable operation. Alara squeezed inside and immediately began the procedure to open the chemical intake valve. Thorn, I'm at the reservoir. The catalyst needs to be diluted before introduction. What's the appropriate ratio for current tank conditions? Static answered her. Communications were failing. Closing her eyes briefly, Alara forced herself to recall the specifications they'd calculated hours earlier. The current situation was different. Partial drainage, system stress, electromagnetic interference, but the fundamental chemistry remained the same. She made rapid calculations in her head, then adjusted the reservoir's mixing chamber accordingly. As she worked, a violent shudder ran through the facility. Warning lights flashed across the control panel. Structural integrity compromised in multiple sections. The Guardian vessel was increasing its energy output. Whether intentionally or not, it was tearing BioCore apart. Alara poured the catalyst into the mixing chamber, sealed it, and activated the emergency release. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a deep mechanical groan, the reservoir emptied its contents into the primary filtration tank below. The effect wasn't immediate. For 30 agonizing seconds, the facility continued to shake and systems continued to fail. Then, gradually, the vibrations began to subside. The warning lights on the control panel shifted from critical red to cautionary amber. Her communicator crackled back to life. Era? Alara, do you copy? It was Lee's voice, strained but controlled. I'm here. Catalyst deployed. What's happening? The Guardian vessel has ceased its energy pulse, he reported. And there's a new message broadcasting across all channels. Alara made her way back through the now quieting facility to the main control room. There, displayed on the central screen, was a message from the Guardians. System adjustment detected. Potential extinction vector neutralized. Evacuation protocol canceled. Monitoring will continue. The countdown clock had disappeared from all displays. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, a technician let out a nervous laugh that was quickly echoed around the room. Lee clapped Alara on the shoulder, a rare display of emotion from the stoic commander. "You did it," he said simply. "We did it," she corrected, searching for Thorn in the crowded room. She found him in a corner, already analyzing readings from the treated filtration system. "The catalyst is working as designed," he reported as she approached. CB7's quantum signature has been effectively masked. But, he lowered his voice, the effect is temporary. My best estimate gives us 2 weeks before the bacteria return to their natural state. 2 weeks is enough time to develop a more permanent solution, Alara said, or to prepare better communications with the Guardians if they return. Captain Rivera's face appeared on the main screen, relief evident in her expression. "Well done, Chief Vance, Dr. Thorne, Commander Lee. The Council extends its deepest gratitude." She paused, then added more soberly, "The Guardian vessel appears to be preparing to depart. But before breaking contact, they transmitted a large data package labeled Assistance Protocol, Gamma-Class Ecosystem Optimization Methodologies." Thorne's eyes widened. That could contain invaluable information about sustainable ecosystem management from a vastly advanced civilization. "Perhaps," Rivera agreed, though initial analysis suggests much of it is incomprehensible with our current scientific framework. I'm assigning your team to study it, along with continued monitoring of biocore systems. After the communication ended, Alara found herself standing before the great observation window overlooking the primary filtration tank. The water was clearing, systems gradually returning to normal operation. Beyond the reinforced hull of Harmonia, visible through a smaller viewport, the Guardian vessel was pulling away, its organic metallic surface rippling with blue-green energy as it prepared to depart. "They really thought they were saving us," Lee said, joining her at the window. "In their way, they were trying to," Alara agreed. "Compassion without understanding can be as dangerous as hostility. A lesson for us to remember if we ever become the advanced civilization encountering others," Thorne added, his gaze fixed on the departing alien ship. The vessel accelerated suddenly, its form elongating impossibly before disappearing in a flash of light that momentarily blinded them. As her vision cleared, Alara focused again on the filtration tank on the billions of microscopic organisms continuing their vital work within it. Somewhere among them, CB7 bacteria with their temporarily altered quantum signatures carried on their processes, oblivious to the crisis they had inadvertently caused. The ship's systems would need careful monitoring in the coming weeks. The catalyst effects were unpredictable over the long term. Biocore stability had been compromised, perhaps in ways they hadn't yet discovered. And beyond their hull, somewhere in the vast galaxy, the Guardians continued their self-appointed mission, perhaps even now approaching another civilization with their well-intentioned warnings. Alara watched the subtle currents in the filtration tank, the barely perceptible shifts that represented the delicate balance they had fought to preserve. They had survived, not through superior firepower or even persuasive communication, but through adaptation and deception, convincing a godlike AI that they were something other than what they were. It wasn't a comfortable thought. Yet as Harmonia continued its long journey between stars, carrying its precious cargo of human lives and the complex web of organisms that supported them, Alara found herself wondering if perhaps the Guardians had been right about one thing: the precariousness of their existence, balanced on the quantum signatures of microbes they barely understood. "Back to work," she said softly, turning away from the window. "We have a lot to learn."